Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jo, and this is my channel that's sort of gone out of left field, and I've just realised that my shirt's dirty. Off to a great start. I've got something completely different for you today. So I woke up to two news events that happened in Australia overnight. They're a bit concerning, and I wanted to share them with you just to see what you thought. So this is a pre-recorded one. So this is from the ABC News this morning. So what's happened is that there are some new media laws being touted in Australian Parliament, and Facebook threatened to ban Australians from sharing or viewing Australian and international news content. So we woke up this morning to find that news contents are banned on our Facebook pages. So the ABC reports that Australians waking up this morning found they were blocked from viewing or sharing news content from publisher pages, including news organisations like the ABC. So this also prevents people overseas from sharing Australian content on the social media site. The social media giant said it made the move in response to the government's proposed media bargaining laws, which would force major tech giants to pay Australian news outlets for their content. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg tweeted that he'd had constructive talks with Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg this morning, while Communications Minister Paul Fletcher said Facebook should think very carefully about what it means for its reputation and standing. Facebook said the proposed Australian law fundamentally misunderstood the relationship between their platform and publishers who share it who use it to share news networks. So, 7 News and 7 West Media have made multi-million deals with Google for use of its content. So, Google is actually paying to use contents from 9 and 7 Media, which is interesting. So, Google's been involved in this as well. So it says last year Facebook generated 55.1 billion free referrals to Australian publishers worth an estimated 407 million. So if you pull up a news report today, this is what you get. So if you were to look up ABC News on Facebook, this is what you get. So Google's still working on it. So that was reported by the ABC. So there is... So this is a media page. Question time's begun in Parliament. That's really quite funny. So this is just an update of everything that's going on in a minute. So this article is about the rollouts. The concern is that not just news reports have been taken down, but, for example, it's really disappointing to be cut off from our 160,000 supporters who follow Save the Children Australia Facebook. Save the Children has come to rely on the platform to communicate with our supporters and members of the wider Australian community. We also use Facebook as an important fundraising tool to reach generous supporters who want to support the world's most vulnerable children. Every minute that our page is down is another minute that our message isn't getting out. So it's not just it's not just news reports that have gone down. It is lots of other pages. So, for example, it's the Department of Health and Human Services page in Victoria, which, of course, gives out pandemic advice. The Bureau of Meteorology, a government. So a lot of the government sites have been taken down as well. So Josh Frydenberg was not given any notice from Facebook as to what was happening, despite having chats with Zuckerberg on Sunday. This was an hour ago, 12:54. Well, we certainly weren't given any notice by Facebook. You're right. I spoke to him over the weekend, but I spoke to him this morning. We had a pretty lengthy conversation, about half an hour, and it was constructive. I think there's some different interpretations as to how the code would work, and we talked through some of those elements, and we're happy to clarify some of those issues with Facebook. Because, as Paul said, we want commercial agreements under the code. We want to implement and legislate code. We want the major players to stay here in Australia, and we want to keep providing the services to Australians that Australians enjoy. So we're going to work with these issues through Facebook. Now, it has been stated that now some of the sites are back up and running, that they're working to fix that. I have to say it was really, really good, though, to open up my Facebook and not be bombarded with news, particularly one-sided news or biased news. It was good just to be able to, if I want my news, I've got to go to the news site. So this was 4 hours ago. This was when it was discovered that it seems Facebook did not mean to ban non-news pages like the weather that have fallen prey to its blanket blocking of Australian news content. There is chaos on Facebook as unions, health and research pages have been wiped. Facebook says it was a mistake to block the Bureau of Meteorology and is working to reverse the ban, according to US-based CN reporter Tony Wong. So, as I said, it's a very interesting situation. So it's all really, really messy, but essentially, if you are going to allow news contents to be accessed from your site, they want you to pay. I'm in two minds about this. As I said, I really like the fact that my page isn't bombarded. Do you know, I've seen nothing about, I'm having to go to the Department of Health and Human Services to get the factual information about the virus. If I want to look up the news, I have to go into the news sites. So from that perspective, I'm enjoying that. But also, there are times when news sites have to be able to access the public. For example, in emergencies, in bushfire, when we've got bushfires, for the pandemic. And I think there has to be times when they need to be given access. So, for example, the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, they're funded by the government, and so they are the disaster broadcast network. So, particularly the radio. So when there is something and then they're talking about evacuations, you can turn on your ABC radio and they give you all the updates about evacuations. So they should be able to do that through Facebook and through other social media and through Google. That should be non-negotiable. If there needs to be an urgent message out to people, they should be able to do that. So my concerns are, at the moment, there seems to be non-news outlets getting taken down, and non-news outlets being taken down, and the fact that we can't access normal stuff. So this was the opposition leader this morning, and this was his concern, and so this is my concern as well. I'm just waiting for it to open. Hope you're having a great day. This is the stuff that I love. Like this, so you can't really see it, but it's Albany Albanese. He is the leader of the Labor Party, so he's the opposition leader. During a global pandemic, Australians can't access state health departments on Facebook. On a day of flood and fire warnings in Queensland and Western Australia, Australians can't access the Bureau of Meteorology on Facebook. The Morrison government needs to fix that. Morrison is the Prime Minister. So that is the consequence of the protest. But as I said, Facebook have said that they are fixing it. They're looking at it. So I hope that they fix those pages, because people need to be able to get the information, particularly for disasters. And there are disasters around. So this is another example. So this is Queensland. So this is Queensland Health and South Australia Health, just to show you an example of what everyone's talking about. So they're blocked, okay? So these are the pages that need to be able to be accessed. So here's my summary. To be honest, as I said, in my opinion, I'm not missing the fact that there's no news, because I'm not missing, I now can choose to go and read the news outlet that I desire. I can see why some people would find it handy. Sometimes it was handy because you could always catch up on the latest news. I do have concern, though, that we are going to, lose the ability to get information out to people very, very quickly. So there needs to be some negotiations. Although it seems that Google's been able to negotiate something with some of the media. The only problem is that we're going to get a bias. If there's several outlets and Google, for example, have a deal with 2, you're only going to get the news from those 2 outlets. Now, the other interesting thing is, I think it's tomorrow, there is a Royal Commission into the bias of media starting in Parliament, which will be very, very interesting, particularly the Murdoch media, which we know is very biased in Australia. So all of these factors, need to be taken into consideration. The other thing that's happened overnight, which I was really, really like, I'm even more annoyed than this, is this news came in last night. The Family Court was an initiative of the Whitlam government designed to remove fault as a consideration in marriage breakdown and improve the civility of determinations. It did not always succeed, but the specialisation was and is valuable. Apart from politics, why destroy it? Now, if you're thinking, what does that mean? I will explain to you in a minute what that means. There's another Twitter post that sums it all up. All right, here it is. So there was a motion last night to abolish the Family Court, and it went through with the help of 2 senators last night. So this was written by somebody. I'm not saying that but they've said, I think most people know about Pauline Hanson and her vendetta about Family Court because of her son. She has got a history with the Family Court with her son. It says Australia's specialised Family Court is no more. Now the government's legislation to virtually abolish it has passed through the Senate with the help of One Nation and other crossbenchers. The Family Court was set up in 1975 to deal specifically with things like divorce, family violence, child abuse and parenting disputes. However, it will now be merged back into the under-resourced and overburdened Federal Circuit Court, making it harder and more time-consuming for people to seek safety and justice through the legal system. The last domino to fall in the government's favour was Independent Senator Rex Patrick, who told the Sydney Morning Herald-Sun that he wants to make the legal system more efficient. It's not significant change, but it does have some streamlining effects for administration, and I'm happy to support the bill. He said. So Senator Hanson supported it, and this Senator Patrick Hanson now. There's been a lot said about Pauline Hanson, and because her son has had a bad experience with the Family Court. My concern. So then this was posted because we have a few scandals happening at the moment. So these are just some Twitter stuff here. Parliament House, the centre of our democracy, where IR laws are written and passed. They cleaned the evidence, withheld footage, then abolished the Family Court. How can any woman feel safe at work when Brittany couldn't be kept safe in the most secure office in the land? Sorry, I didn't show that. And in fact, how can anybody feel safe in the most secure office in the land? So there has been some information coming out about a scandal in Parliament House. But my concern about the Family Court system is now it's going to be merged back into, as you said, the under-resourced, underfunded federal court system. The thing about the Family Court was that it was a specialist system, and they could move, even though at times they felt like they moved slowly, they often move fast. And to abolish that, I think, is very bad for the vulnerable, men, women, children, particularly any that have to deal with domestic violence. I think it's really, really sad. And I'm not sure, so don't take this as gospel, this is just my opinion, but I think we're also going to lose the specialisation of the family judges. So the family judges were a specialist. That's all they did. They listened to family court matters. They were specialists in that role. To be merged back into the federal court system, those judges may have to now do other cases. We lose that specialisation. We're going to have long waiting lists now for court dates and court issues. People's lives are going to be at risk, and this is going to be a mistake that we're going to suffer for a very long time. And I'm really feeling sad. So they are the two big issues that have come out of Australia today. So I'm just interested, what do you think? I'm just interested in your opinion. What do you think about Facebook? Do they have a point to block? Or should the media, platforms like Facebook, should they have to pay the media outlets for the news? And what do you think about losing the family court in Australia? I'm pretty sad. That's the thing that's upset me the most, I think, today. Is the family court. So anyway, Parliament is doing question time at the moment, and it's hilarious. I love question time. There are two big issues that they are dealing with. One is the Facebook issue, and two is the alleged of an ex-employee, because she had to resign. And former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd is in the House because he's there for the Royal Commission into Media. So things are going to get very interesting in the next few weeks in Australia, particularly in politics. I don't mind. I have an interest in politics. I like politics. But I don't want to, I'm trying to not show bias. I'm just stating what's happened, trying to give you the facts, and then give you my opinion. So, as I said, I've really enjoyed a quiet Facebook. To actually have to go looking for news is good, in my opinion. But I know other people rely on it. So, like, for me, it's not the end of the world. It's interesting. Oh, this is 3 minutes ago, the Treasurer stated, what we saw today from Facebook. Facebook actions were totally unnecessary. They were heavy-handed. They were wrong. It was provocative and overreach. It damages Facebook's reputation here in Australia. There was no reason to block access to government sites. Sites provide incredible information about the pandemic, about emergency services, about mental health. It was unnecessary to do that. We say to Facebook, we'll continue to work with them, hopefully find a pathway forward. But what their actions today have done is to remind Australians the importance of this code, and it's reaffirmed and strengthened the government's resolve to implement it. So there you go. So with that, I bid you farewell, and I will catch you again.